So a very, very warm welcome to this media briefing today we're having on Arianes. We will report on the progress and the preparations towards the first flight of Ariane 6. This is a meeting where we have journalists both here in the room as well as connected digitally. So I also welcome those that I'm not seeing right now, but that are connected on the screen. We're planning roughly 45 minutes for this media briefing. We hope to give you an update in 15 minutes and then really have 30 minutes for Q&A, because I'm sure you have many questions. There is a possibility for our spokespersons here today to stay a bit longer afterwards. Time is limited, but that's possible. It's possible for those that are here in the room, so those that are connected digitally, I welcome to contact us at media.esa.int if you have any further questions or require further assistance with material that is online, etc. We are very happy to have you all here today. ESA is here today with its partners, so I very welcome here today Philippe Hubert Roussel, who is the ArianeGroup CEO. André. It's true. This is a system. This is a system. All partners. Indeed, André-Hubert Roussel from the ArianeGroup, Josef Aschbacher, Director General of the European Space Agency. Then we have with us Philippe Baptiste, CEO of CNES, Stéphane, Israël, CEO of Arianespace, and also Daniel Neuenschwander, Director of Space Transportations for the European Space Agency. And with this, I would like to give the word to our Director General, Josef Aschbacher.
Good. Thank you, Ninja. Name is right. So, no, thank you. Thank you to all of you for coming here. And of course, it is a pleasure to update you on the status of Ariane 6. I should say that we have called for this press briefing together. So ESA together with our partners, as Ninja was mentioning, with CNES, Philippe Baptiste, André-Hubert from CEO of ArianeGroup, and of course Stéphane Israël. And next to me, Daniel Neuenschwander, of course you know him very well as Director of Space Transportation. And the reason for this press briefing really is because we have been having a few milestones and we want to keep you up to date on where we stand, and of course allow you to have all the questions which you may have. So maybe just to recall the key responsibilities of the partners you see here on this table. Start with ArianeGroup. ArianeGroup, as you know, is the design authority and industrial prime contractor for the launcher system, responsible for the Ariane 6 launcher development. CNES is the prime contractor for the Ariane 6 launch base in Kourou and responsible for the readiness of the ground segment or ground system. ESA is managing and funding the Ariane 6 launch system on behalf of our member states, and we are also the launch system architect. And of course, Arianespace is the launch service provider for Ariane 6 after the first qualification flight. And just to recall, Arianespace, of course, has the same function also for Vega. So to give a brief update on what happened more recently, some of you have been informed that in May this year, I was putting in place an external review on the status of the Ariane 6 schedule towards the inaugural flight. This was an important exercise because we really went quite deep into the technical milestones that need to be achieved. And we identified key milestones that are coming up, and this was in May, which we want to review today on where we stand on these key milestones. Some of it, of course, are technical elements that have been conducted, and I will then hand over to my colleagues to report on them a bit more in detail. But another important element we put in place after this review in May was a so-called streamlined management team, which is call it a tiger team that has been put in place, composed of members of ESA, ArianeGroup, and CNES, located in Le Mureau at ArianeGroup to very closely work with the project teams of ArianeGroup in the development of the launcher to reinforce really the activities and make sure that we can work together as the three major agencies and entities in the development of Ariane 6 towards its inaugural flight. The objective of the external review was to gain confidence on the robustness of the inaugural flight date estimation, which are, of course, linked to technical risks and the schedule critical path. Some examples of these recently achieved milestones are the start of the Ariane 6 upper stage hot firing test, which took place which started on the 5th of October in Lamboltshausen at the premises of DLR, and the full stacking of the Ariane 6 model that will be used for the combined tests at the European spaceport in French Guiana. And you see here on the screen the picture is stacked up Ariane 6 model. So now we have sufficient progress to give a clearer update on the Ariane 6 planning. And let me maybe say the information you're probably most looking forward to, which is the planned date of the inaugural flight, which is today, based on current estimates, planned or estimated to be in the last quarter of 2023, which is, of course, a shift to what you have probably heard recently, but we will explain you in more detail on the various steps to be taken there. But also, let me really recall that with a project of this magnitude, it needs to be clear that this is a planned date and that the program will still need to successively and timely achieve a number of key milestones in order for this schedule to remain valid. To be very concrete, there are 3 big milestones ahead of us that need to be accomplished by the first quarter of 2023 in order for the inaugural flight at the end of next year. These 3 steps are: number 1, the successful completion of the Ariane 6 upper stage hot firing tests in Lamboltshausen, firing of the Vinci engine. Number 2, the start of the combined tests campaign in French Guiana, meaning the firing of the Ariane 6 core stage with the Vulcan 2.1 engine. And number 3, the start of the launch system qualification review, which of course is critical, is crucial in order to get on time to the launch pad. Let me also say that CNES, ArianeGroup and ESA are working very intensely to achieve this planning. I mentioned the SMT, the Streamline Management Team, to also support this effort. But before leaving the floor to my partners, let me recall what is really at stake. And what is at stake is the European independent access to space. We are all fully committed, and myself as Director General of ESA, and together with the partners, we are fully committed to proceed as speedily as possible towards the launch pad, because we do need autonomous access to space, which of course is crucial for Europe for many reasons which are very well understood and well known. So this is really my introductory words. I'd like now to hand over to André-Hubert Roussel, the CEO of ArianeGroup, to give an update on his side on the Ariane 6 launcher development. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. So I will give you a little bit more details on the milestones that we have achieved on the launcher side before Philippe on the ground side. So first of all, and you have the picture in front of you, a few days ago, exactly on October 13th, we have completed the model of Ariane 6 on the launch pad to perform the combined test totally. So it means that the mechanical interface between the launch pad and the launcher is now validated, works. So it's a demonstration, and remains to do, obviously, the electrical and the fluidic connection to test the rest of the preparation of a flight. You remember the core stage was erected beginning of July on the topic, and just a few days ago, in fact, we have erected what we call the upper part. So it means the fairing plus the vehicle adapter plus a mock-up representative of a satellite inside this fairing. So this upper part has been put on the core part of the launcher. So this is one of the major achievements that we have performed during summer. The second topic, and it was mentioned as well with by Josef is the hot firing test start. So it has started, so the mechanical integration has started quite ago, you can remember. When the upper stage arrived in Lampolshausen, we had connected it, etc. And what we have been extremely successful during summer, after some hiccups due as well to the meteorology, to fire the Vinci engine, filling the tanks, and firing the engine, which is the ultimate goal, in fact, that we have on the upper stage. It went very well. The engine, Vinci engine, worked for 45 seconds as planned. And now we are in the process of looking at the technical data, all the detailed data, terabytes of data, to check all the parameters that happens during this preparation, and to make sure that we will, it has been perfectly, but visibly at least, it has been extremely good. Remains quite a number of tests to perform and to continue to at least up to 3 hot firing tests will be performed on this upper stage in Lampolshausen before we can use that to qualify the upper stage for the first flight. We had as well a very important event beginning of the summer, which was the first flight of Vega C. So what has it to do with Ariane 6? If you remember well, the first stage of Vega C, the P120, is a common part with Ariane 6. We have 2 versions of Ariane 6, Ariane 62, Ariane 64, which will be equipped by 2 P120 or by 4 P120 for the topic. And this was the first time, after all the tests on the ground of the P120, which were successful, that the P120 was flying. So it gives a very good confidence. It worked perfectly well, so it gives a good confidence already to have the qualification in flight of this first part of Ariane 6. The last topic, very important, what happened during summer, is the preparation of the launcher for the first flight. We have now in our factories in Les Mureaux, in Bremen, and in Kourou, manufacture or being integrating, in fact, the different stage that will compose the first flight model. And this is progressing well, and we are going to be able to ship it to Kourou beginning of next year or end of this year, but it is not on the critical path. This is, let's say, progressing very well. In addition, because yes, the maiden flight is very important, but the ramp up afterwards is extremely important to serve our customers. And Stéphane will come back on that. We have already started the integration as well of the flight model 2 and even the integration of the flight model 3 are already in progress. And obviously, in all the supply chain in Europe, which is gathering more than 600 companies, things are progressing well for enabling the ramp up. So clearly, this makes me quite confident that we have passed critical milestones. Yes, things has taken more time than we were expecting, and this is the system dimension, and this is the reason why we have set up this integrated smart management team, streamlined management team with ESA and with CNES, so that we really now enter the phases where we are not only taking care of the ground or taking care of the launcher, but taking care of the launch system. And we are doing a launch system. This is complex. There is a lot of interaction. And this is where we are testing everything, not only the nominal case for the flight model 1, but as well making sure that all what could go bad will not happen, or that we can react correctly, not only for the first flight, but for the second flight, the third flight, the fourth flight, etc., etc. Because we will not again perform this test. So we have to really conduct all these tests, and clearly this is a very major de-risking topic for all the exploitation of Ariane 6 in the future. So I am optimistic on the progress, and clearly I will continue, and we will continue all together to mitigate all these risks, make sure that we are not, let's say, bargaining a delay of 1 or 2 weeks in addition with the quality and the safety of the flight. Very clearly as well, we are working on the future at the same time. We had as well some milestones during summer, and we will come back to you in a few weeks, I guess, with ESA and with CNES to talk about the progress on Prometheus, the progress on Themis, which are as well very important at the same time. We should not forget it.
Thank you very much. So few words on the launch base. Just to recall you that the launch base is well, very large launch base. It's basically the size of Singapore, and on this launch base you have several launch systems, and that most of them have been designed by CNES, and this one is I think the 8th one that we design after Diamant, Europa, the Ariane series, and so it's quite a piece of work. It's I just if perhaps one a couple of figures. It's something like 50,000 cubic meter of concrete, but it's not only concrete, it's also a very complex and a very highly technological facility that has been designed with 2 major objectives. The first one is basically to reduce the cost and to reduce the length of the campaign for Ariane 6, and I will come back to this later. And the second one is to reduce and to mitigate the impact of the launch facility to mitigate, to reduce the green impact of the launch operation. So basically, it means that in practice that we have been working quite a lot to introduce a solar farm, and we are just at the beginning of that, but also biomass generation plants that will reduce the energy cost for the launch operation. And in a later phase, we will also have the facility to produce green hydrogen, which will be the propellant for the launcher. So this is also part of the project itself. So coming back really on the one of the major objectives is still to reduce the cost of the launch. And this is the reason why there is an assembly which is made on horizontal assembly instead of what we did before on Ariane 5 and on the other ones, which were vertical assembly. We have automatic guided vehicles that during the summer have been able to really move the launcher from the assembly building to the launch pad. Everything went fine, and today you have the launcher which is fully erected on the ELA4, so the launch pad. So what remains to be done right now is we still have quite some tests, some intensive tests to do. Most of them are control system and software tests that have to be performed on the launch pad. And then after, of course, once this will be done, then we will be able to make the combined test, basically to ensure that the launcher and the launch pad communicate very well, and that both on the, of course, on the software side, but also on the mechanical and fluidic side, to ensure smooth operation and to be sure that at the end we will have a very successful first launch. Thank you very much. Stéphane. Daniel, okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, I follow the schedule.
I never speak before Daniel, so it's. So sorry. Yes. No. Philippe Baptiste was right as always. Okay. No. So maybe a few words on the Ariane 6 and the Vega C on the market. Well, I think the first point I would like to remind is that these launchers are perfectly adapted to both institutional and commercial market needs. which, as you know, are more and more diverse. We are living a world where, for Ariane, for instance, the bread and butter was the GTO dual launch, and you know that now with the Mega constellation, it's a different world. And if I refer to Vega, Vega can make a single launch, dual launch, auxiliary payloads. So we have here two launchers which are highly versatile, and specifically due to their upper stage, the Vinci and the Avum, which are both restartable, allowing a very complex mission. The second thing I would like to mention, and I think Daniel and Isa will come back to this point, you know that will be submitted to this ministerial an improvement of Ariane 6, which is called the Ariane 6 Block 2, which by a combination of more Vinci thrust, P120C plus, will have approximately 20% more performance in a lower orbit, and which also will benefit to Vega C because it will be for sure also the booster of Vega C, giving more margin for instance, heavy radar missions. And Daniel will elaborate on that, but this is a very positive signal that we already collectively to answer market and institutional needs made the decision to have an improved version of Ariane 6 and more performant Vega C. We have a strong order book. You know the figures, 29 Ariane 6 already in our order book, 7 Vega C and 2 remaining Vega. It's a very strong order book regarding Ariane 6 for a launcher which has not flown yet. Dominated today by the commercial because we have had this huge order from Amazon. So in number of launches, we are 75 commercial and 25 institutional, but Ariane 6, especially in its version Ariane 62, is fully adapted to institutional needs. And regarding Vega, it is more institutional, 60% institutional and 40% commercial, but also commercial customers such as Airbus Defence and Space, the Korean Space Agency, and others. So the message is that the order book is very important, and it's already for Ariane 6 a big commercial success. All in all, the market is growing, and I think this is also an important message because, you know, in Europe, for years, we have been very concerned by competition, and competition is here. Competition is increasing, but the good news is that the market is also increasing. And by the way, maybe there is a link between these two facts. And take it as raw figures, but the accessible market for Arianespace, as sole launch service provider of Ariane and Vega, is 3 billion euro per year for this decade, as opposed to 2 billion during the decade to 2010 to 2020. So we have an increase in the market, which gives a lot of opportunity. And this is why, regarding Ariane 6, in 26, 27, it would be good to increase a little bit the cadence. It's not so easy because if we go for a big increase, we have very heavy investment and we need a business case for that. But maybe we could increase a little bit the cadence. This is a topic we would see based on the market needs and the overall business case. So this is where we are. And so last but not least, you know that due to the stop of Soyuz, we have to accommodate some missions which were on Soyuz and which are now looking for a launcher. You know that OneWeb, we have made a settlement with OneWeb, so this question is a little bit behind us. By the way, Arianespace will be in India to support the launch from our dear friend of NCL and ISRO. And then we have 5 institutional missions for which ESA, CNES, and the French MOD will make final decision. My message is that Arianespace will fully respect these decisions. They will have to be made on satellite availability, operational constraint, sovereign operational needs and sovereign constraints, and our customers will then make the best decision for these 5 missions. They have the choice between Ariane 6, Vega C, and some non-European launchers as backup. Thank you very much.
And to conclude, I just would like to underline to all of you that the new family of European launchers composed of Ariane 6 and Vega C is really under full deployment. I mean, we are today in front of you with a performed inaugural flight of Vega C. We are in front of you with Ariane 6 in the final sprint of its development, but building also on a strong heritage. I mean, we all remember Christmas Day of last year with the injection of, in a very quite accurate way, of James Webb Space Telescope by Ariane 5. And of course, we build also on this heritage of Ariane 5 on Ariane 6 as a matter of fact. So we are right now really in this full deployment of this new family. So maybe just one word about Vega C to give you a bit of details. You all witnessed the launch on the 13th of July from French Guiana, from Europe Spaceport at 13:13 UTC this summer. What we can report to you is that the technical data are very good. And with this technical data, we can now really hand it over to Arianespace for exploitation. And you heard from Stéphane what are the perspectives for Vega C. This is very good news because we have the capability now to go towards the second flight within 4 months, basically after the maiden flight. And we aim at 4 launches in 2023. So you see quite a steep ramp up of Vega C. A second point, which is also highly relevant, is the injection accuracy of the payloads of this inaugural flight, which is in another way the demonstration that the 4 engines perfectly functioned during this inaugural flight. And as mentioned by André-Hubert, the P120C being the first stage of Vega C and being the common part with Ariane 6 has really technical data which is outstanding and exactly according to the prediction, which gives also confidence in the models we have elaborated. Another word about the Ministerial Council we have in a few weeks ahead of us. And of course, space transportation will be full part of this menu. Why? Because any action in space starts on the launch pad, as a matter of fact. And we have 2 main topics at this ministerial. The short-term priority, of course, is the market introduction of Ariane 6 and Vega C. For that, we will propose a menu in order to serve Europe's freedom of action to adapt the product on the one side, because we need flexibility. The master word is really flexibility. By enhancing the services, replying to European institutional needs. We need also versatility in the service we provide, and of course, very important, cost efficiency. For that, we have a transition until we come to the full launch rate on both launches, Vega C and Ariane 6. And for that, we have a number of programs we submit to our member states for subscription. We also prepare this Block 2, which has already been announced. This Block 2 is an evolution of Ariane 6, which on the one side is based on the performance increase of the P120C, which becomes the P120C Plus. De facto, we will rename it towards P160 because this is at the end the final loading. This will be the major part of the performance increase, and it will be complemented by the Vinci Trust increase for roughly 10%, leading to the overall figure mentioned by Stéphane. Or in other words, if you want to see it from the customer point of view, for a LEO constellation, it means that you bring additional 3 tons into orbit. So it's quite significant. Second point, also in this short-term priorities is, of course, a follow-up of the Vega line. Vega C is we have addressed it. Vega E is coming at the horizon. We want to propose a performance increase of 20% for a cost reduction of 20% as well. How do we achieve that? By taking out 1 stage. That's an important element. Second, by introducing also a fully European liquid engine. And this performance increase is, just to be crystal clear, is to increase the flexibility of Vega in the same market. Because what we need is to have more robustness in the services which are proposed to the to the customers. And sometimes you have some constraints from safety perspective, so you need a little bit of margin, but it is clear that Vega has a clearly defined market segment. Second main point of this ministerial is an ambitious preparation of the future. This is of utmost importance in the current circumstances. Space transportation is at worldwide level. We have some challenges from the European side, as a matter of fact, if you look to what is happening around this small blue planet. And for that, we have 3 lines of actions. Number 1 is to prepare really the technology disruptors and rapid demonstrators. Prometheus has been mentioned. Let's recall here that this liquid engine had his first ignition cycle demonstrated a couple of days ago. We have the Themis demonstrator, which is based, by the way, on the Prometheus engine. We have also a demonstrator for the second stage reusability, because we consider that this is of utmost importance to show that we are technically capable of doing that in Europe. Second important is that we want to continue to support the emergence of a competitive, commercially robust private European space transportation sector. We have a program which is called Boost, which we started in 2019, on which we will extend the perimeter if our member states follow us on that. And this will certainly be a strengthening measure in developing this sector across Europe. And third, a minor point from a financial point of view, but not to be underestimated, is that we want also to propose preparatory activities for European human space transportation capabilities in order to prepare an informed decision by member states as of 2023. So this is what we are going to propose. Equally important is also how we are going to conduct future programs on space transportation. Here, the notion of procurement of services is the master word. This transformation, we have started it. It happens now. We will continue it over the key milestones of CM22, but also the following Ministerial Council in 25, with the long-term goal at the horizon of 2030 to serve basically 4 objectives, which with our European space transportation services. First, of course, sovereignty. It is clear, and this is unchanged, and we need continuity of launch services for that. Cost efficiency goes hand in hand with this, and this is also a point which is not new. But there are 2 additional elements. The required flexibility shall allow us also to have a scalable space transportation sector in Europe, which at the end brings a tailored reply to the effective demand, which will materialize. And last but not least, very important, environmental sustainability. Philippe mentioned a couple of points of what we are deploying at the CSG. Of course, this will also be applied over the whole life cycle of our launchers here in Europe. And with that, we can conclude this introduction, Nina, and go to Q&As. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Daniel. Before we move to the Q&A, a bit of information. So because we also have, of course, connected people digitally, I would like to ask everyone who is here in the room to ask a question with a microphone, because otherwise you will not be heard and understood for those following the live stream. Julio here has a microphone that he can pass on to everyone who would like to ask a question. I would suggest, before we take on a few questions that are posted online, that we start with you here in the room. So if there's anyone having a question here, please raise your hand and state also your name and your affiliation, and also to whom you would like to address the question. You want to have a question?
Thank you. Antoine Meunier from La Chronique Spatiale. What are the payloads, the 5 payloads, if excusez-moi, je vais parler en français. Quelles sont les 5 missions qui devront faire appel à un lanceur non européen?
Alors, je vais répondre en anglais, mais je vais essayer d'être précis. So 5 missions were forecasted on Soyuz and booked to Soyuz, EarthCare and Euclid, which are ESA mission, 2 Galileo mission, which are European Commission and ESA mission, and 1 French for the optical satellite CSO3. And now these missions will have the choice between Ariane 6, Vega C, because at least one of them could be possible with Vega C, or a non-European launcher. I have not said that the 5 will go to non-European launchers, and this is not what I expect, but this is now what must be decided by the customer, taking into account the schedule of Ariane 6, which will start Q4 2023, as said by Joseph, and now the customers, based on is the satellite ready, do we have an urgent operational need, and do we have sovereignty constraints, will make a choice. This is where we are.
Thank you very much. Are there any more questions in the room? Yes, please.
Oui, bonjour, Audrey Dufour du journal La Croix. Je vais poser ma question en français aussi, si c'est possible. Je voulais savoir, est-ce qu'il y a assez d'Ariane 5 pour faire la jonction? Est-ce que vous avez encore assez d'Ariane 5?
So we have 3 remaining Ariane 5. The next one will be 14th of December for EUMETSAT and for Intelsat, and then we have 2 more in 2023, and then it will be over. And we will have, so the most probable scenario, Ariane 5 will stop in the first semester of 2023, and as we have said, Ariane 6 will begin at Q4 2023. But we have no overlap between the launchers, but it's not an issue because we had no payload anymore forecasted on Ariane 5 beyond the 3 Ariane 5. So we have to deliver the 3 Ariane 5, and after we will have the start of Ariane 6. But it's, as said by Philippe, Soyuz was supposed to be a backup for Ariane 6, not Ariane 5. Because most of the missions we are now mentioning could have Soyuz as a backup, and we do not have anymore this backup. So this is what is really new. But Ariane 5 was not supposed to be a backup of Ariane 6. When we had forecasted the end of Ariane 5, we knew that we would stop Ariane 5 either in 22 or 23. So now we are in 23, first semester 23. It will be the last 2 Ariane 5.
Thank you very much. The next question we have online is from Thomas Schumann, Radio 4 in Denmark. Thomas, I'm not sure you can unmute your microphone and speak to us, or you prefer to read your question? So the question you are posing is, when do you expect to fly the first Ariane 6 propelled by green hydrogen? And how do you intend to mitigate the environmental impact of the solid rocket boosters?
So as far as H2 is concerned, I mean, the plan to have a green H2 on the base, earliest time of arrival is 2025. So it will take a couple of years to have the H2 on the green H2 on the base, and then after, of course, we have to run all the qualification tests to be sure that it can be used on the launcher. So add most likely a couple of months to this.
Thank you very much. I understand there's a question from Véronique from Le Figaro. Véronique, can you hear us? You need to unmute. Véronique? So maybe while we wait for Véronique to sort out the issue with the microphone, there's another question in the room that we can pass on. Yes, please.
Elle m'a pas donné le... Allô?
Very welcome. We hear you very well now.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you well. Do you hear
You
us?
hear me? Okay, sorry. I think there was a bug in the system. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions and good evening to everybody, of course. You mentioned before that things took more time than scheduled, if I sum up what you said. So could you be more specific and explain what are the reasons for this new delay? This is not the first one. What is the major issue which for us to understand the delay? This is the first question. My second one is about the financial impact of this delay. Can you be specific about the amount of additional costs concerning the A6 programs? It was 4 billion euros at the very beginning. What is the budget today, and what will it be in the end of 2023? And my third question, I was wondering if this new delay encouraged ESA to question the governance of European launcher industry and the geographical return policy. Thank you.
Well, maybe I start first regarding the elements of the delays. You know that there were a number of points which have already been addressed. The introduction of the APUs, the auxiliary power unit, which was not planned initially at the program, the development of the cryogenic arms, the upper stage testing in Lampertshausen, the shipment of the CTMs, with combined test modules, and last but not least, also COVID effects had to be factored in. What's today is really critical is that we do everything to master the software development at system level, but also on the, which applies to the launcher side and to the ground side. And this is certainly the key aspect to look into it when it comes to the criticality of the schedule, which is also ahead of us. Then regarding to the costs, I would like to recall here that the 4 billion euros you were quoting was including Vega C. If you ask the question, what is the development cost of Ariane 6 up to now overall, we are slightly below 4 billion overall. The major impact has to be seen in the transition program, because de facto the ramp up is now on Ariane 6 is having also effects with this delayed inaugural flight. The transition programs basically serves to cover two main points: the learning curve for industry on the one side, and the second element is the cadence effect. Today, all in all, if I include what we will propose to the ministerial end of the year, the transition program on Ariane 6 should reach 600 million, out of which 2/3 are supported already by the member states to date. And on the geographic return, I maybe switch or leave it to my boss.
These are the wonderful questions. Thank you, Daniel. No, geo return or governance at large. Of course, we are always looking into improving our system. This goes without saying. In fact, those who are following the work of ESA more closely will confirm that we are constantly looking at shortening times to contract or being more dynamic in many aspects. The point of geo return, I can only say two things. First of all, geo return, as you probably know, is anchored in the Convention of ESA. So it is something that our member states have decided and is part of the way how we work. However, how we implement geo return, of course, there we have some room for flexibility. And this is actually, among other things, one of the elements where I would like to look next year in particular into the modernization of ESA. ESA is a very good organization. I think we're delivering huge successes, recognized worldwide, and I think a lot of very good reputation and very nice success stories are coming out. But still, even being successful, you should always make improvements where you can. And this is certainly part of an ongoing exercise which we undertake in many aspects. However, let me just make one comment on geo return, because sometimes this is translated into not being competitive, and this is absolutely not true. I take other examples which I know perfectly well from the satellite world. As some of you may know, I've been Director of Earth Observation in the past. I have made comparisons of costs of satellites produced within these framework with all the companies and countries involved as compared to others in the world. And I'm not going to mention any of those, but just to say that these are extremely competitive and in many cases quite cheap compared to other satellites in different places, despite all the G returns and all the rules which sometimes people think are a bit strong and a bit heavy. So yes, we maneuver within our boundary conditions, but I think we're doing a pretty good job because what ultimately counts is the success, and I think the success is very visible and I think very strong. Thank you.
Perhaps one very short compliment on geo-return, because this is a question that is, of course, discussed a lot inside the ESA Council. And we really believe in France that geo-return has really helped a lot Europe to really invest into space and to help a number of countries that have started the space program and to develop very efficiently these programs. The question is perhaps a little bit different when you have programs like a launcher or like some kind of telecommunication program where you really work on the market and you are really in competition with other countries. So at least I would say that we believe that geo-return should be, I would say, adapted to really take into account this very tough competition and to take into account the fact that sometimes you have to streamline the industry and reduce the overall cost of the development program. So this is, of course, something that will be on the table at some point, but of course this needs to be. We are all working together with all the other member states, and this needs to make some kind of change in this kind of approach. Of course, we need to have some kind of consensus on the table, and this takes time to reach.
Thank you very much. And there's another question in the room.
Radio France Internationale. Véronique asked some of my questions, but I have some for you. You mentioned 3 milestones to be achieved by the end of first quarter 2023. What's going to happen next between that and the maiden launch? Are there critical steps to be overcome? And second question, the last quarter of 2023, is it a tight schedule or do you have some margin to launch?
Maybe I don't know if it's Daniel or myself, but what I can say is that after starting the combined tests, we will have to finish them and to complete them. So as well, like the hot firing test, we have several sequences which are planned to be performed, and it is planned to last a few months after the start. The second topic is obviously to finish the qualification. And for that, we need to have completed the combined test and the hot firing test so that we are able to have the full review of all the results and analyze that. So these are the two topics which are really linked to the development and the preparation of the launcher. Then we have obviously to prepare and to manufacture, assemble, etc. The first flight model. This is progressing very well, as I told you. The different stages are in the final steps of integration, both in Les Mureaux, Bremen, and Kourou. Even some of them finalized already. And the last topic will be the campaign, which is going to the flight. As it was explained by Philippe, everything has been done so that we have a very short campaigns, around 2 to 3 weeks, compared to between 1 and 2 months for Ariane 5 today. So this is contributing to the cost, but as well to the launch cadence that we will be able to perform. But for the qualification flight, obviously we have taken some margin. And we have taken a few months as, let's say, an assumption or a planning to be prepared for the first flight. It is a tight schedule. Nevertheless, there is some margin. And we are doing everything thanks to the organization that we have put in place a few months ago streamline management team. We have as well organized as a task force so that the topics are escalated very quickly at the highest level, both in ESA, in CNES, and in ArianeGroup, so that we can solve them without losing time, because this is what we the margin we will use it if we lose time. Obviously, I'm not talking about any major problem. Obviously, there are still some risks that are not completely eradicated. And for that, obviously, this is as well something that could lead, in fact, to the fact that, as I said, what has taken more time today is preparing, in fact, we have to have two topics working together for several aspects, the ground and the launcher. And this is a brand new launch system. It is not only a new launcher or an evolution of Ariane 5. It's really a new ground system, a new launcher. And the brains, they have to talk together as long as the launcher is on the ground. They have to be perfect, to work perfectly together. Because if the ground is delivering, I don't know, hydrogen, and the launcher is not expecting it, this could be a catastrophe. And this is all what we have to test and to be sure before launching.
Thank you very much. So looking at the time, we have one last question in the room and then one last question online. You're welcome.
Yes, Frédéric Castel, Radio Canada and Swiss Radio. If things go well with the inaugural launch, you underlined the second challenge, which is the ramp up. How concerned are you about that? And why, if you have an order of 26 Ariane 6, you are only building 3, and when do you follow up on for the batches?
So maybe I was not clear enough. Already, you can see in the final integration the 3 first launchers. Nevertheless, in all the supply chain, we have a lead time which is today around 2.5 years, 3 years, and that we will reduce when we ramp up the production. But some of the industrialists in the supply chain are already working on the 7th model or even on the 15th model. And we have already ordered to the supply chain all what we call the long lead item, so that we are ready. And by the way, as well, we had to secure with the war in Ukraine, you know that there is a little bit of tension on the supply chain of certain raw materials and certain components. And all this has been already secured so that we can perform the ramp up.
If things go well, to sum up, how many launches could you have as an objective in 2024?
Today, we are consolidating that as well with the, let's say, the rearrangement of the manifest with the customers. But clearly, it's a steep ramp up here.
Can you give
No, it's not yet finalized.
Thank you very much. And the last question I would like to get from Peter de Selding. Peter, I'm not sure your questions have already been answered, but I'm sure you have a new one if they did. So well, can you hear us, Peter?
I do, but and I'm sorry, Danielle, but I might be tired, but the response to the earlier question about the 600 million euros, I didn't really understand. So the basic question I still have is the causes of the most recent delay. We knew there was going to be testing in Lamplethausen. We knew there was going to be the combined tests in French Guiana at the launch pad. The APU, which you mentioned, is a complex piece of machinery, but that's not new either. There must have been something or several things that you can identify and speak to in the last 6 months that have now jumped past mid-year until the end of the year. And because, as you know, any launch vehicle that I know of in history that's ever said we're going to be launching in about a year, there's always a delay beyond that. And then that's the causes. And the consequence, I think you said a few months ago that you're going to be looking into who's responsible financially for these delays. There's some force majeure here, the COVID stuff. Not anybody's fault, but it has to be taken into account. There's the CNES responsibility for the launch pad and the Ariane Group-led industrial team. Has there been a split decided among who's going to pay how much for this? Thanks.
Peter, I think you are not tired. You're listening carefully. That's good. So first of all, regarding the development contract is very clearly defined, and the figures I gave, just to be clear again, it includes the share of Ariane 6 of the P120C as well. De facto, what has been injected in development beyond what has been decided initially was 150 million a couple of months ago. But the development contract as it stands in itself. Now, the impact which is linked to the delay and the ramp up we are having, which is not the one which has been initially planned, leads to an effect in industry, prime and supply chain together, which has an impact on the transition program. And the transition program, as mentioned, is covering also the cadence effect. So if your ramp up is not as steep as it was planned initially, you have to make sure that you have a minimum viable production over an extended period of time. And this is a point which is covered and addressed through the Ariane 6 transition program, which is a different contractual setup, and on which we have already subscriptions from member states of 2/3 of the overall 600 million I have mentioned at the beginning. And we go for the remaining third for a decision in November at the Ministerial Council.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the end of this press briefing, looking at the time. We have a few moments left here on site at headquarters, ESA headquarters, for questions and interviews. For those online, if you have questions that have not been answered yet, please do send them to media@esa.int. Thank you very much, and thank you to the speakers. Thank you.